If you had driven past my aunt's house that afternoon, you would have seen nothing but charm. It was a large white two-story home on the outskirts of Columbus, Ohio. The porch had soft yellow lights that flickered in the warm June air. Red flowers hung in baskets from the railing. Cars lined the driveway and spilled onto the street. From the outside, anyone would have thought a family was gathering to honor someone they loved. That someone was supposed to be me. I had finished my master's degree in accounting while working full-time in a downtown office. My job paid $60,000, and every month I sent money home when someone said they were short. $300 here, $200 there, sometimes more. It never felt like a lot in the moment, but over 5 years, those small transfers had added up to more than $30,000. I never talked about it. I simply believed that was what daughters did. So when my Aunt Diane said she wanted to host a party to celebrate my graduation, I agreed. I told myself this time things would be different, that maybe they were proud, that maybe I mattered in ways they had never shown before. The backyard was crowded with folding tables covered in white plastic cloths. The grill smoked in the corner. Kids ran between the chairs, knocking cups of lemonade with sticky hands. A speaker played upbeat music that no one was really listening to, and in the middle of it all was my cake. Chocolate, covered with smooth white frosting and blue letters that spelled out, "Congratulations, Emily." I had ordered it from a bakery downtown and paid $42 for it. I did not trust anyone else to remember. I stood near the table, holding the knife, waiting for the moment someone would say something kind. A few people clapped half-heartedly. Someone raised a plastic cup. My chest felt tight, but in a hopeful way. Maybe, just maybe, this would be a memory I could keep. Then my cousin Mark stepped forward. He was holding a beer, his cheeks already pink from drinking. His grin had that sharp edge I remembered from childhood, the one that meant he was about to ruin something. "Everybody quiet," he yelled, tapping the bottle with a spoon. "Our little scholar thinks she is better than us now." A few people laughed. I forced a smile, hoping it was a joke, the kind you shake off. But his eyes did not soften. He looked at the cake, then at me, then at the crowd. "You know what happens when someone forgets where she came from?" he said. Before I could react, he shoved the cake with his full hand. It slid off the table, flipped, and hit the concrete patio with a wet slap. Frosting splattered across shoes and chairs. A candle bounced under the table. A chunk of sponge stuck to my ankle. For one long second, everything was silent. Then my 10-year-old nephew, Tyler, stepped forward with a grin that cut deeper than any insult. "Eat it off the ground, Aunt Emily." Laughter erupted. Real laughter. Loud, bright, cruel laughter filled every inch of the yard. My Aunt Diane clutched her stomach, tears at the corners of her eyes. Someone slapped Mark on the back like he had done something heroic. I stayed still with the knife in my hand. My cheeks burned. My eyes stung. The air felt thick and sharp at the same time. I looked around for my mother. She sat under a large umbrella with a glass of sweet tea, watching everything. She did not frown. She did not defend me. She did not move. She simply smiled with a softness that said this was harmless fun. That was the moment something cracked inside me. A quiet break. A small, cold snap I could almost hear. I set the knife down. I turned. I walked toward the side gate. Someone called out, "Come on, Emily. Do not be dramatic." Someone else laughed louder. I did not look back. I drove home in silence. My small 2-bedroom rental on the east side of Columbus welcomed me like a place that understood me. The beige walls. The gray second-hand couch. The desk where I had studied late into the night. I paid $1,000 a month for that space, and every cent came from my own work. For the first time in hours, I could breathe. I took off my shoes, washed the frosting from my ankle, and made a cup of tea. I sat on the couch with my laptop open, pretending to scroll through emails. My chest still felt heavy, but my mind was strangely clear. I thought the night had already given me its worst. I was wrong. My phone buzzed on the cushion beside me. It was a text from my mother. "We have decided to sever all contact with you. Stay away from this family forever." No explanation. No hesitation. No signature. A second later, a heart reaction appeared under the message. My younger sister Lily had liked it. I stared at the screen. The world felt quiet. My hands stopped shaking. There was an odd sense of calm, like a door had closed and locked behind me without sound. I typed one sentence back. "Thank you for making everything clear." I set the phone down carefully, like it was made of glass. In that moment, sitting in my own living room with my dignity finally louder than my fear, I realized something important. My life was about to change. And for the first time in years, it would change because I said so. People like to pretend that endings come out of nowhere. A cake on the ground, a cold message on a phone screen, a door that quietly closes on a life you thought you understood. But the truth is, endings begin long before the final moment. They grow like small cracks in a wall you keep painting over until one day the entire structure shifts beneath your feet. That was what I felt the night I sat on my gray couch after the graduation party incident. My mother's message still glowed on my phone. "We have decided to sever all contact with you. Stay away forever." The heart reaction from my sister Lily sat just beneath it like a final flourish. For a long moment I stared at it, not in shock but in recognition. It felt like someone had finally spoken the truth out loud. Because deep down, the cracks had been there my entire life. Growing up in Cleveland, it was obvious to anyone who walked into our home that Lily was the favorite. Her certificates filled the walls of our living room. Most creative, most spirited, best performance. She got loud applause for everything she touched. My parents took out a $5,000 credit card loan to send her on a 2-week graduation trip to Paris because, as my father said, she deserved to see Europe before she took on the world. My own high school graduation was quieter. A cake from the supermarket. A $50 bill in an envelope. My mother handed it to me without looking up from her phone. In college, I worked part-time in the campus library and part-time in a small diner to cover the pieces my scholarship did not. Lily lasted 1 year in college before she moved back home because, in her words, school was not her thing. Yet she somehow always had new clothes, the latest phone, and a social life that never slowed down. When she needed gas money or a new jacket or spending cash for a trip, someone provided it. Usually me. There was one winter I can still feel when I close my eyes. I was 18, living in my tiny dorm room with barely $100 in my checking account. The walls smelled like old paint, and the heater made a ticking sound every 5 minutes. At nearly midnight, my mother called. She said the gas bill was overdue, and the company planned to shut it off the next morning. Her voice was tight, as if the crisis were my fault for not being home. I sent $250, wiping out almost everything I had. That was the first time. It was not the last. After that came the car insurance, the property taxes, the heating bill, and the phone bill. Every time, they said they would pay me back. They never did. Each request started with guilt and ended with my wallet open. By the time I moved to Columbus at 28, I was still carrying their weight. I lived in a $1,000 a month rental, and I had finally built a little stability. I made reliable payments on my student loans. I bought groceries without checking the balance on my card first. I went to work every day in a professional office and felt like I was slowly becoming someone I could be proud of. But even there, even with my own space, I was financially tied to them. My name was attached to 3 loans for their house and their lives. $12,000 to repair the roof. $22,000 for a shiny SUV Lily insisted she needed. $5,000 on a credit line that somehow never dropped below the maximum. Every month, I made the minimum payments on all 3 while telling myself this was what good daughters did. My parents told me it was family money, so it did not matter where it came from. Lily told me I should be grateful I could help. I told myself loyalty meant sacrifice. It took my mother's message to wake me up. After the party, after the cake, after the text that cut me off, I set my mug of tea on the table and opened my laptop. My hands shook, but my mind was startlingly clear. I opened my banking app. Then I opened a blank spreadsheet. I began listing every payment I had made on their behalf for the past 5 years. $400 for rent help. $600 for groceries when they said they had nothing left before payday. $7,200 in total. Gas bills, electric bills, and internet bills. Random charges that appeared in emergency texts. $8,600. Loan payments for the roof, the car, and the credit line. $14,300. A long list of emergencies, each with a story attached. $300 for Lily's vet bill. $500 for my father's dental work. $800 when they claimed they might lose the house unless I sent money immediately. When I added the numbers, the total made my breath stop. $39,100. Nearly $40,000. Money that could have paid off my student loans. Money that could have bought me a car outright. Money that could have been a down payment on a small condo. My head fell back against the couch. I pressed my palms into my eyes and let the truth settle. I had not been supporting a family. I had been funding a lifestyle. Something inside me shifted. The next morning, I walked into my bank on High Street. A woman in a navy blazer led me to her desk and pulled up the loans in my name. She looked at me with calm, steady eyes when I told her I wanted my name removed wherever possible. She explained everything clearly. Some loans could be refinanced without me. Others needed to be paid off. But there were steps I could take to protect myself. I froze my credit. I set alerts. I created barriers no one could cross. Then I pulled out my phone and canceled every automatic payment connected to them. One by one. $200 for household costs. $90 for Lily's car insurance. $75 for my parents' phone plan. With every click, something heavy loosened. That afternoon, I wrote an email. No anger. No insults. Just facts. I will not be sending any more money. Any loans with my name are your responsibility. I am protecting my credit and my income. I wish you well. I read it twice. I hit send. And for the first time in my life, the silence that followed felt like freedom. 3 weeks passed before I realized that my decision to walk away had real consequences. It was a Saturday morning in early fall, one of those quiet Columbus mornings where the air is cool enough to make you open a window but not cold enough to turn on the heat. Sunlight spilled across my small dining table, the one I bought secondhand for $80. I had my budget spread out in front of me, and for the first time in years, my numbers made sense. My paycheck belonged to me. My rent, my utilities, my groceries, my student loan, and the small savings line at the bottom of the page were the only things listed. I had managed to put aside $500 already. It felt tiny compared to the money I had poured into my parents and Lily, but it also felt powerful. It was the foundation of a life I was building on my own. Then someone began pounding on my front door. Not knocking. Pounding. Hard, with fists that carried anger in every hit. I froze in my chair. My heart thudded against my ribs. A cold wave swept down my back. Emily, open this door right now. My father's voice. I stood slowly, every muscle tight. I had not seen any of them since the day they used my celebration as a punchline. I had hoped their message cutting me off meant they would truly leave me alone. Clearly, I had misunderstood the kind of people I was dealing with. I stepped quietly toward the door and looked through the peephole. There stood my father, his face red and furious. My mother was behind him with her arms crossed tightly over her chest, her expression sharp and cold. Lily leaned against the porch railing in a shiny jacket, looking annoyed, scrolling through her phone like she was being forced to attend a boring event. Emily, we know you are in there, my mother called out. We saw your car. My voice wavered, but I forced it steady. What do you want? You know what we want, my father snapped. You stop the payments. The roof loan is past due. The bank keeps calling. The car company called too. They said if you do not pay by Monday, they will come and take Lily's SUV. That has nothing to do with me anymore, I said through the door. That is between you and the bank. Do not act stupid, my mother said, her voice rising. You are on those loans. You owe it. Family sticks together. You do not humiliate us by talking to the bank behind our backs and then abandoning us. Family sticks together. I almost laughed at the absurdity. They had not stuck with me when my cake lay smashed on the ground while they laughed. They had not stuck with me when my mother sent a message that cut me out of the family, like I was disposable. "I did not abandon you," I said. "I simply stopped letting you use me." A loud smack echoed as my father slammed his open hand against the door. I jumped back instinctively. "You ungrateful child," he shouted. "After everything we have done for you, your mother raising you, giving you a roof, feeding you, and you dare to cut us off as if we are nothing? Get out of here and bring me your card. We are going to the ATM right now." For a moment, the old version of me rose. The version that used to hand over her debit card and whisper apologies that she did not owe. The version that believed love meant giving even when it hurt. But that girl was fading. Slowly, steadily, she was being replaced by someone who understood her own worth. "No," I said. The word was small, but it felt like an earthquake inside my chest. Everything outside went silent. Even the wind seemed to stop moving. "What did you just say?" my father asked, voice low and dangerous. "I said no," I repeated. "You sent me a message saying I was cut off. I accepted that. Which means my money is cut off, too. I am not opening this door." Lily finally looked up from her phone, her face twisting in frustration. "You are ruining everything, Em," she yelled. "They said they might lose the house. How can you live with yourself if we end up homeless because of you?" Homeless. That would have been almost funny if I had not been so tired. They still owned their old paid-off house in Cleveland. The loans were for upgrades, luxuries, and unnecessary expenses. I had known that for years. They knew it too. "I am sorry you are stressed," I said, "but it is not my job to fix any of this." My mother's face hardened. Her voice turned sharp, almost theatrical. "Fine," she said. "If you refuse to do your duty, we will make sure everyone knows who you really are." She stepped back, took out her phone, and pointed it at my house. I watched through the peephole in disbelief as she hit record. "This is my daughter," she said to her camera. "The one who thinks she is too good for her own family. The one who lets her parents drown in debt while she hides inside her house." Something inside me cracked again, but it was not the same break as before. It was not pain or embarrassment. It was clarity. Cold and deep. My hands shook as I reached for my phone. I dialed a number I never imagined dialing on them. When the dispatcher answered, my voice came out small but steady. "My family is outside my house, refusing to leave. They are yelling and hitting my door. I feel unsafe." She asked for my address and said officers were on the way. Outside, my father kept pounding. My mother kept recording. Lily complained loudly about how dramatic everything was. I felt like I was watching a scene from someone else's life. A life I did not recognize anymore. 10 minutes later, 2 police officers walked at my driveway. I watched them through the blinds as they approached my parents. There was a long conversation. My father pointed at my house like it was a weapon. My mother argued, waving her phone as if her recording proved something. The officers stayed calm. Eventually, one of them stepped up and knocked gently on my door. "Ma'am, it is the police," he said. "Can we speak for a moment?" I opened the door just enough to see them. "Do you want these people here?" he asked quietly. "No," I said. "They are my parents and my sister, but I do not feel safe." The officer nodded. "Then they need to leave. If they come back, you call us again. You can also look into a protective order if you think you need one." I met my mother's eyes over his shoulder. Shock flashed across her face. Anger followed. Then something like disbelief. For the first time in my life, I had chosen myself. They left that afternoon, but the noise did not stop. Over the next weeks, my mother posted long paragraphs about selfish children who turn their backs on the ones who raised them. She never used my name, but she did not need to. Everyone who read her posts knew exactly who she meant. I made one post of my own. "I wish my family healing, but I will no longer discuss my private financial choices in public. Please do not involve me in any online drama." Then I logged out. And for the first time in years, the silence felt like peace, not punishment. The white envelope arrived on a Wednesday evening in early spring, months after the scene on my porch. I had just come home from work, tossed my keys on the small table by the door, and kicked off my shoes. My townhouse felt peaceful in a way that still surprised me sometimes. The gold light from the setting sun fell across my living room, warming the wooden floor. My home smelled faintly of the vanilla candle I had lit the night before. It was a space that belonged entirely to me, bought with choices I made without fear or guilt. That envelope lay among the usual stack of mail. A grocery flyer, a credit card offer, a water bill, and then this plain envelope with the bank's logo printed in the top corner. My heart picked up its pace. I had seen too many letters from banks in my life to ever open one without feeling a small knot form inside my chest. I sat on my couch and held the envelope in both hands. For a moment, I simply stared at it. The house was quiet except for the hum of the fridge. I let myself breathe long and slow before finally tearing it open. The letter was short. The mortgage improvement loan ending in 4729 has been refinanced, and your name has been removed from the account. You are no longer financially responsible. I blinked. I read it again. Then again. You are no longer financially responsible. Those 6 words hit me like a wave. All the fear, all the guilt, all the shame that had wrapped itself around my life for years loosened in that instant. My body began to shake, and a strange, choked laugh escaped me. I pressed the letter to my chest and leaned back into the couch, letting the relief wash over me. 1 loan down, 1 chain gone. Over the next month, more letters arrived. The car loan tied to Lily's SUV had been refinanced too. My name has been removed. Then a notice from the bank that the credit line had been closed and paid off through a consolidation loan that did not involve me at all. With each envelope, each confirmation, each line that proved I was no longer tethered to their financial chaos, I put the papers into a folder inside my desk drawer. I labeled it Freedom File. It was a silly name, but it made me smile every time I opened the drawer and saw it there. The noise from my parents faded slowly. The online posts stopped. The long paragraphs accusing me of coldness and betrayal faded from their profiles. Whether they had grown tired, embarrassed, or simply found new problems to focus on, I never knew. I never asked. Their silence did not hurt me. It felt like space to breathe. During those months, my life shifted in ways I had not expected. I filled my days with small, healing routines. Saturday mornings are spent walking around the park near my townhouse. Evenings sitting in my new writing room, where the walls were soft blue and I kept a small plant on the windowsill. I saw friends more often. Real friends who never asked me for money or made me feel guilty for wanting peace. Some nights, I cooked pasta or soup and ate it in silence, not because I was lonely, but because silence felt like a gift. I began to understand that quiet could be comforting instead of empty. I also started going to therapy every week. My therapist, a woman with kind eyes and a soft voice, helped me untangle years of believing that love required sacrifice, that loyalty required financial obedience, that my worth depended on how much I could carry. Those sessions were not dramatic. They were slow and steady, like learning to walk again after years of limping. 1 year after the cake incident, I stood in the living room of my new townhouse while signing the final papers with my realtor. $245,000. $35,000 down. I had signed every page with hands that did not shake. When the keys were finally placed in my palm, my realtor congratulated me. I nodded, swallowing hard, because the moment felt bigger than a purchase. It felt like choosing my life. I spent the next several weeks painting walls, assembling furniture, and filling the space with things that made me feel strong instead of drained. I hung soft curtains and bought a new rug with blue and gray lines. I placed a lamp in the corner that gave off a warm, golden glow at night. Nothing in the house reminded me of my parents or of the old life I had left behind. Then, one afternoon, something unexpected arrived in my inbox. An email with the subject line, "From Mom." My heart tightened. I stared at the screen for almost a minute before opening it. Her message was long. She apologized if she had hurt me. She said things had been stressful. She said money had caused misunderstandings. She said she missed me during the holidays. She mentioned that Lily had been struggling and that it would be nice if we could try to start fresh. But she never mentioned the cake. She never mentioned the pounding on my door. She never mentioned the video she recorded while shaming me on her phone. She never mentioned the message where she cut me out of the family, like I was a stain to be scrubbed away. Her apology moved around the truth without touching it. I read it twice. Then I closed my laptop. I did not reply that day. I did not reply that week. The girl I used to be would have run back instantly. She would have said it was no big deal, that she forgave everything, that she would continue helping if they needed her. But I was not that girl anymore. 2 weeks later, I wrote a short, calm message. I hope you are well. I am building a peaceful life and I need to keep my distance to protect it. I wish you healing. I hit send and felt something settle inside me. Not anger. Not joy. Just a deep, steady peace. My journey did not end with a dramatic reunion or a grand speech. It ended quietly. In the choices I made each day to live with dignity. In rooms, I painted myself. In bills I paid without resentment. In friendships that felt light and safe. In mornings when I sat with my coffee and felt the sun on my hands, knowing no one could take that moment from me. Sometimes I passed a bakery window and saw a cake decorated with white frosting and blue letters. For a second, a small ache would rise. Then I would smile, because I finally understood something. The strongest act of self-love I ever performed was not forgiving the people who hurt me. It was choosing to walk away and build a life where no one could ever again ask me to swallow my pride or eat my joy off the ground. And that life, quiet and honest, was worth everything.